Hey guys, Amanda with Nomad here. It is time to talk about Windrock Off-Road Park in Tennessee. This trail specifically is trail number 16, which is one of the Jeep Badge of Honor trails here at Windrock, and it is rated a 728 in the Jeep Badge of Honor app. That is demanding to very challenging. We did find that there were some portions of this trail that were a little bit more difficult, but as you'll see when you watch this video, a lot of the trail is pretty simple, dirt road with a few rocks just winding through the trees. One of the things that makes this trail so difficult is its length. This one is an incredibly long one. I want to start this video off by talking about Windrock as a whole for a minute so that you'll better understand this trail and the reason why we give this trail the rating that it does. Windrock is an off-road park in Oliver Springs, Tennessee that offers over 72,000 acres of off-roading. Now, Windrock as a whole being 72,000 acres means that it's got a lot of off-roading and a lot of entertaining things that you can do. Our experience, though, is about 90% of the park that we saw was simply dirt roads. Windrock has 4 ratings. They have easy, moderate, difficult, and most difficult. There are some other trails that are bike trails only, and then a few that are classified as ATV only, but we're going to discuss the easy, moderate, difficult, and most difficult trails today. When we say easy, we found that a lot of the easy trails, which are marked green on the map, were just simply dirt roads. They were less than access roads at most other parks that we went to and were incredibly easy. The moderate trails are trails that were dirt roads with a couple of rocks in them, but really no major obstacles. Again, most of these roads were like access roads at other off-road parks. Then you get to the difficult, which this one is rated as difficult. Difficult trails are essentially dirt roads that have a few major obstacles on them, and those major obstacles do require some greater modifications. We found that a lot of the obstacles have bypasses, making it easier for more stock vehicles to do. So you will see in the Jeep Badge of Honor app that a lot of people say, oh, I took my stock vehicle on this trail, I had no problems doing it in a stock Gladiator, things such as that, and that is simply because there are a lot of bypasses. We think that most people could do this trail in a more stock vehicle if they wanted to, but you do need to be prepared for some damage because there are some portions of this trail where the trail gets very tight, and if you are not as experienced and don't have a modified vehicle, you are highly likely to slide off of the trail into a wall, either made of mud or rock, and damage your vehicle. There is one portion of this trail where Gail, driving the white JK who is with us, ended up hitting a wall, destroying one of her fenders, and ripping off her license plate and her tail light because she slid out of control in the mud. Now that brings me to the most difficult thing about Windrock as a whole. This is a slippery, wet, muddy park, and every single trail that we went on had mud in some location. Now, we've heard from some people that mud is less common in different times of the year, but that a majority of the year there is mud on almost every single trail. We were blessed to wheel without rain, but there is very frequently rainstorms in this area simply just because of its location. And you'll see here as we're going through this part of the trail, the mud can get pretty deep and pretty slippery and can really make it hard to manage the direction that your vehicle is going. The final type of trail, the most difficult trail, we had a really hard time finding trails that were rated most difficult that were even capable of holding Jeeps. Most of the most difficult trails had signs at the trailhead that said no Jeeps allowed. We found out later because the trees are close together and it can be hard for Jeeps to fit through there without damage. I would say if you are an experienced off-roader and you're really looking for a challenge here, go ahead and try those trails even though they are marked no Jeeps, simply because they're capable. It's possible that you can get through it. It's just not going to be easy. We missed out on that opportunity while we were here because we did not find that out till after we left Windrock, but I would highly recommend if you are experienced and looking for a challenge, do those trails that say no Jeeps, or at least as much of them as you can, and worst case scenario, you just turn around and go back. A little more about Windrock as a whole. Windrock has They brag about having more than 250 trails, which I don't doubt at all. This place is huge. You could spend weeks here and not see all of the trails. But we ran about a fourth of the trails while we were there, simply just driving through different trails to get to the Jeep Badge of Honor trails and to get back out of the park. And we found that most of them were incredibly easy and took only a few minutes to do. This particular trail, being the longest of the Jeep Badge of Honor trails at Windrock, was a bit more challenging because of the amount of time that it took. We were on this trail for about 5 hours this day, simply because it just was slow going with the mud and with the obstacles, and then of course with the overall distance of the trail. However, the scenery on this trail was absolutely worth it. There's beautiful mountain scenery, beautiful forests, all throughout the entirety of the park, and really made it worth doing this trail so that you could see the mountains and the beautiful leaves as they started changing colors for fall. Another downside to Windrock, and this is something that we found out after we were already trying to start wheeling, they do not charge by vehicle, they charge by person. So if you, your spouse, and your 2 kids want to go wheeling here, it is going to cost you $40 per person for a 2-day wheeling pass. $20 a day per person makes this the most expensive park we have ever been to. It really left a bad taste in our mouths because we were not expecting it to be that expensive to wheel, especially wheeling a park where a majority of the trails are dirt roads. On top of that, they have security to make sure that you're paying it, and they stop you quite frequently. We were stopped multiple times throughout the trip to have our passes checked to make sure that everybody had paid. And they're very, very serious about everyone paying that outrageous wheeling fee. So just keep in mind when you're planning and budgeting for Windrock that the overall fees for wheeling are amongst the highest that we have ever seen, and that's really gonna put a little bit of damper on your funds for the trip. Some positives about Windrock. It has a lot of amenities. The RV park that is attached to Windrock is one of the best RV parks we've ever stayed in. The spots were huge and had plenty of space for us to be able to hang out and set up multiple people on each campsite, as well as space for trailers and trucks and things like that. The general store has a lot of things that you could need while you're there, including drinks, snacks, supplies, equipment for your Jeeps, things like that. And they also sell gas and ice in the park, so if you run out of gas or ice or need to top off, they have both of those things. The camp store or the RV park store closes at 5. The off-road park store closes at 6, so they do close pretty early, but you can wheel until sunset here without getting in trouble. Just make sure that you're off the trails by sunset. Now, the final thing that I will share about Windrock as a whole, this is really our opinion, so take this or leave it. We really feel like this park was made for ATVs and side-by-sides. We had an extremely unfortunate experience multiple times on the trail of sitting and watching ATVs and side-by-sides tearing up the trail, either by driving way too fast through them or roasting their tires in mud holes and making those mud holes deeper and creating ruts on the trail. We personally did not enjoy that aspect of this trip at all. While we were there, we saw probably a dozen Jeeps in the entire park. And when you keep in mind that the park has over 250 trails, you would expect to see a lot more Jeeps. But a vast majority of the people that we saw were either on dirt bikes, on regular bikes, on ATVs, or on side-by-sides. The side-by-sides were really the overwhelming majority. It really created traffic jams on the trails because the side-by-sides would travel in packs of 10 or 15 side-by-sides, and you would be sitting for a long period of time waiting for them to get by. It ruins the experience for people who are not in side-by-sides because of the noise, because of the loud music, because of how fast they are going down the roads and down the trails, and then of course waiting for the large groups. That was really our opinion of the park. We know other people will have different experiences when they go, but we really felt like the side-by-sides were harming the overall experience because there was just such an overwhelming number of them. If we had to go back, we would probably go back so we could see more of the park and do more of those extremely difficult trails, but we still would rate Windrock as a medium level park. I mean, maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10, whereas parks like Hot Springs and Gulches are parks that we would pick above Windrock any day. Being that we live in the DFW area of Texas, we also felt like for the distance that we had to drive, it was more fun to go to Moab. It was the same distance for us to go to Windrock as it was for Moab. Moab has more trails, fewer side-by-sides, and really a higher difficulty rating. And we really are also not huge fans of mud, so we liked the fact that Moab had more rock crawling and less mud. That's really all I have to say about Windrock as a whole. Again, we did have a good experience, so I don't want you to think we didn't have a good experience, but it just wasn't our favorite park, given the distance, the cost, and the number of side-by-sides. The last things I have to say about trail number 16 are it is very well marked, so that was fantastic. It made it really easy to continue on the trail, even with multiple other trails branching off from it. Windrock also has a mobile application that you can pay $7 to download the map on the mobile application for the weekend, or you can pay $20 for a physical map. We did both, just paid the extra money so that we could have as many maps as possible to make sure we didn't get lost. And I will say that the app map is completely worth it because it helps keep you on track. Trail number 16 is known in the off-road community as being extremely difficult and causing a lot of damage, and we really managed to make it out of there with one damaged fender, that license plate and tail light that I spoke about previously, and then a pair of completely destroyed rock rails, and one misfortune with a tree that caused the door bracket on one of the Jeeps to get bent. Really, altogether, that is very low on the damage rating considering some of the damage that we've incurred on some other trails. So I do believe that the people who are experiencing the greater damage probably don't have as capable of vehicles, so we really didn't have any issues. As I've said in videos past, everyone in our group has minimum 37-inch tires, lockers, significant lift, and body armor and underbody armor to keep us safe. So we really made it out pretty well on this trail. That's really everything I have to say about trail number 16 and Windrock. Overall, my rating for this trail is going to be a 7 out of 10. It had difficulty, it was well marked, it was beautiful, the length was a little bit overwhelming, and other than the side-by-sides, we had a great time. I'll let y'all finish watching this video, but please give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Nomad Offroad TX on all platforms. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.